Hi there, it's Jennifer, and I'm out for a walk today. And so today I thought I would talk to you a little bit about why I walk. And so I hope that you will come along for a few minutes while I talk to you about my thoughts on that. It is super windy, so I'm gonna get off the sidewalk and head into the forest so I can do more of this video. So if you've checked out my other channel, which is called My Flagstaff Home, I just recently uploaded a video about spring wind that we have here, and today is a classic day for spring. So it was super windy out on just the neighborhood streets. So I'm right next to forest, and so I just decided to cut into the trees today for my walk. So I'm going to be going a little slower, but you know, I'm getting out there. So I just wanted to talk about why I walk, and not necessarily why you should walk, although some of these things may be helpful for you. But you know, I started out, I was walking, let me switch here. I was walking, I don't know, a couple miles, a couple days a week, kind of strolling pace, and it never really did much for me. But I think my overall steps for the day probably weren't up there very high. You know, they say you should strive to have 10,000 steps a day. And that makes a big difference if you wear a pedometer. And you don't need to go out and buy some expensive Fitbit or anything. You can just get an inexpensive, what's mine? Well, mine's $20. You can get them cheaper than that, but they'll break really easily. Let's see what mine is called. Mine's called a DigiWalker 5W-200, and or is that SW? I don't know. Anyway, I was looking at it upside down. So I think it costs $20, and so I started because I wanted to burn calories. And speaking of which, walking and running, depending on your intensity, burn the same number of calories. And that might seem surprising to you, but it's the same number of calories over distance. So if a runner runs for 15 minutes and a walker walks for 15 minutes, the runner is going to burn more calories. But if a runner runs a mile and a walker walks a mile, the number of calories they burn will be similar, because it takes longer for the walker to complete the distance. So that was one of the reasons, but I really didn't notice that it was making a big difference in weight or anything like that until I probably doubled my mileage from 2 miles to 4 miles on a regular basis. That really made a difference for me. Now, if you're somebody who hasn't been walking at all, I mean, just getting moving in the first place, you know, even just walking a little bit is a good thing. So don't try to push this if you've been inactive. But I'm gonna have to show you something up here. This is so pretty. Hold on, as soon as we get over here, I'll change the view so you can see where I am. But so that was a big motivation. And then as I started to get out and, you know, walking regularly, I realized that it helped me just to have some free time in my head, you know, just to disconnect from the to-do list and just, you know, kind of think about stuff and not be so focused on everything I have to do. Okay, here, I got to show you this. Let me turn the view of the camera around. But I really found that just having free time, space in my head to kind of think, and that was another difference between doing 2 miles as opposed to 4 miles, as opposed to the longer distances that I eventually started doing when I started training for my first half marathon, is that, you know, when you go out for a short distance, you're still thinking about, well, as soon as I get home, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this. But when you do a longer distance and you're going to be out for an hour or more, you just kind of have to shut up in your brain and just enjoy what you're doing. And so I found that was something that really just kind of helped me to be peaceful in my head. Sometimes I would still be obsessive about things, and sorry, I keep changing this, holding my arm up as I'm walking. But sometimes I still get obsessive in my head about stuff that's going on at work or whatever. And so what I found really helpful for that is listening to audiobooks. And that was nice, and I motivated myself by telling myself that I was not allowed to listen to the audiobook unless I was walking. So then if the book was coming to a really good place, I'd walk a little longer, or I'd make sure I got out for a walk because I couldn't wait to hear what was going to happen next. It's great if you get into a series, and that was really motivational for me to keep going, because I was in this big long series. Several years ago I was listening to the series of the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, and then more recently I was listening to the Hunger Games series, which was addictive, and it just was motivation to get me out the door and keep me walking. And then later, as I continued to walk, I noticed that my shape changed. And I don't just mean losing weight, I mean my shape changed. Where my hips were curvier before, they got a little bit more straight. And there's just something about that walking movement that, for me anyway, really changed how my body was shaped. It doesn't mean that I never have had to struggle with weight. I've struggled with weight my whole life, but this has really helped me to kind of keep it under control. Oh, and let me just say, why walk as opposed to running? I don't want to say that anyone who's a runner should stop, because running's great for you. I mean, it's better cardio than walking, unless you're really pushing your pace, and you can get a really good cardio workout out of walking. But so I'm not trying to say that you should walk instead of run, but what I am saying is, or if you're not as active as you'd like to be, walking's a great thing to do. And it is easier on your joints. So especially, if you have issues with ankles or knees or anything like that, you certainly need to make sure that you're talking with a healthcare professional to find out what you need to do, so you don't want to injure yourself. But it's not as jarring. Now, when you're going a long distance, you will experience some issues with joints. I mean, after I do a long race, I usually ice my knees and my ankles, because even though it's walking, you're still kind of pounding on the ground over and over for a period of hours. So it's not like it's completely easy, but it certainly isn't like running. The other thing with walking is, aside from having some gear that will be, decent for your feet and your clothing and stuff like that, you don't have to have a membership. You can do it any time of year. I'm going to do a video later on in this series about walking in different kinds of weather, because like today it's super windy and chilly here where I live, but my solution was to just get off the sidewalks and streets and get into the forest where some of the wind would be blocked. And I've walked in ice, and there's solutions for that and everything. So it's an inexpensive thing. If you've been getting out the door maybe a few days a week for a couple of miles, I just challenge you to just try to increase that. Maybe go and start doing 3 miles instead of 2 a few days a week, and then increase that to 4. I'm going to talk more later about my training schedule for my upcoming half marathon and the marathon I have later on. But really, with that, the training walks during the week were just 4 days a week, 3 to 4 miles. And then it's on the weekend, 1 day a week, where there's a longer training walk. And so, so it's not like I'm out there doing 6-8 miles every single day when I'm training for a full marathon. That's too much on the body, but you might just want to challenge yourself to increasing your distance a little bit. You don't want to do anything that's going to be extremely painful or cause you to ache the whole day, but just a little bit farther than you have been will make a lot of difference. So those are some of my reasons for why I walk, and maybe some of those are reasons for you, but I really think it's a good idea to think about, what are your reasons for wanting to be physically active, and what could be beneficial about getting out the door and doing some walking. So I hope that you guys will stick with me on this series. I have so many topics actually now that I've started to think about it that I'm probably going to be posting little short videos from time to time. Like several a month, just for inspiration for some of you. Some of you have expressed interest in this series, and so I thought maybe these would just provide a little bit of motivation. So I hope you guys are doing well. Hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed, and you'll be notified when I upload more of these videos to this channel. So I'll see you again. Bye-bye.